Welcome to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out with Julie Caraccio. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., Julie interviews experts on all areas of clutter: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Learn easy to implement tips on how to release clutter and get organized to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. An award-winning professional organizer and coach, Julie also shares suggestions to help you live clutter-free for a more joyful and fulfilling life. Are you looking for information on how to get organized and reduce clutter? Have you wanted to hire a professional organizer, but it's not in your budget? Do you just need some quick professional advice on clutter or organization? Our clutter-free living classes and how to organize your life office hours support you in becoming free, moving forward, and achieving success. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com.
Hey everyone, today we are going to be talking about disaster preparedness, emergency preparedness. September is National Preparedness Month. I don't like that word. I stumble over it all the time. And it's so very important. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. And when you go out there and live out there, most people become part of the mindset and culture that you are always ready for the big one. Prior to me moving there, they had the earthquake that broke off a chunk of the 10 freeway. And if you've ever been out there, seen pictures, unless you're really on it, an 8-lane freeway had a chunk. And traffic's already horrible in LA, but for another year and a half, it messed it up. So in my car, I always had a bag of stuff ready to roll, medication, some cash. I was prepared because I was going to get out of Dodge if an earthquake ever happened. Now, you don't have to be living in Los Angeles to worry about an emergency. We're here in Raleigh. Today's guest lives here in Raleigh along with me. And in the 80s, they had Hurricane Fran, where you typically think of that as being along the coast. Well, she decided to come inland, and Raleigh saw a lot of damage. So whether it's, God forbid, a terrorist attack, something like that, you need to be prepared. And I just want to say something. I'm not a doom and gloom person. One day my husband put one of these survivor shows on and how they are prepared for doomsday. And I was like, whoa, don't want to be like that. But what I want to encourage you to do is it's going to give you peace of mind if you're prepared for an emergency. And, when I got married, we got married in my parents' backyard. And my father's like, I've got 2 plans for if it rains. And if there's a sandstorm or a windstorm, we have a backup. And I'm like, hey, it's going to be sunshine. I'm not worried about it. He said, I'm preparing for all of this so that it doesn't happen. So if you struggle to get going on this, I'm going to encourage you to remember, you know what? I'm going to be prepared so I can put a little extra effort to it not happening. All right, let's tell you about today's guest. Emily Parks is a productivity consultant and office organizer who founded Organize for Success, LLC in 2007. She helps busy professionals and corporate teams use all their available resources to drive desired results, including the organization of their workspace, making workflow processes more efficient, delegation techniques, strategic planning, and implementing the most appropriate tech tools for PCs, Macs, Androids, iPhones, and much more. Emily is an Evernote Business Certified Consultant and a 2005 winner of the Triangle Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Leadership Awards. She is also a huge Wake Forest Demon Deacons and San Antonio Spurs fan. Welcome, Emily.
Hello, Julie. Thanks for having me here.
And as you know, Emily is our only unofficial, official, regular guest who is here to help us with anything productivity and business needing technology. She is our go-to gal. But let's get started because we have lots of stuff to cover today. Emily, what are the common mistakes people make besides not preparing when preparing for an emergency?
Julie, in general, people tend to think of all scenarios from their own perspective, which means they consider what information, supplies, things like that they themselves need in order to proceed when everything normal has been thrown helter-skelter. I work primarily with businesses, so the information that I share is often targeted to companies. However, any family operates as a team, just like those in business. You see, as business owners, we need to take into consideration what needs to happen for our customers, our vendor partners, our employees, as well as our facilities, in addition to whatever we need ourselves. Well, likewise, each family needs to take into consideration what needs to happen for both spouses, their children, pets, and the home itself. It's way too easy to overlook some of the important details. Therefore, always engage your entire team in the planning process. Everyone will have various perspectives and bring new ideas, so less of the important details will get forgotten.
Excellent. Now, how do we keep all of our emergency preparedness stuff organized and clutter-free? Because you might have something in the garage, you might have something in the bedroom, and that's not going to do you any good if, boom, there's a disaster.
Like so many aspects of our lives, emergency preparedness can be much more organized and clutter-free when we're proactive, rather than just reacting to what emergencies might pop up at any moment. Taking the time to investigate what natural disasters have the potential of occurring in your specific area, whether it be right here in Raleigh, North Carolina, or out in California, or Florida, or anywhere in between, that preparedness allows you to proactively prepare with exactly what's needed for those particular situations, instead of stocking supplies for anything and everything that could happen to anyone.
Excellent. Now, what are some of the basics that we should include in a kit?
I often recommend that people visit ready.gov because it's a great resource for up-to-date checklists about what you need in tons of various situations. But there are a few items I encourage everyone to keep in their emergency supplies. Some of those include a first aid kit. You never know what might happen, so it's important to be prepared. Disinfected water in airtight containers is important, both from a keeping yourself hydrated standpoint, but also a cleansing standpoint, because you may need it to wash things off, dirt on yourself, dirt in the area, or put out a fire if need be. Snacks are important because you don't know how long you're going to be in transit or unable to get to other food. Flashlights, battery-powered or hand-crank radio, a whistle to signal for help. That can be hugely important to alert people of things coming up or to alert people you're there and to come rescue you. A small sewing kit is a great idea, as well as safety pins. And definitely have basic tools like a wrench or pliers, which can be great for turning off a gas line or things like that. A hammer, nails, a pocket knife has numerous different uses, as well as having both a flathead and a Phillips head screwdriver available. I recommend that folks think about keeping a generator in their preparedness supplies, as well as plastic sheeting, a tarp, and duct tape so you can shelter in place as needed. Heavy-duty work gloves and garbage bags are hugely valuable when you're in the cleanup process. That protection of those heavy-duty work gloves can be great when you're actually out there picking up what needs to be picked up. A couple of buckets can go a long way in making sure that you're collecting things together, transporting things properly, or picking up things through the process. I also make sure that everyone, whether in a business or a residential environment, has a small ABC type of fire extinguisher. And if your home or business has multiple different stories, it's important that you have a fire escape ladder on those upper stories so that people can get out safely on their own rather than having to wait for the fire department to arrive. Because you don't know how long you might be without power in certain emergency situations, solar power chargers for your mobile devices are helpful. I also recommend that people keep those personal supplies like medicine or extra cash laying around. People forget to think about the fact that when the power goes out throughout your entire city, all those ATMs that you're used to going to for additional cash will not be working. And most vendors won't be able to take credit cards because all of those processing systems will be down in the midst of the emergency too. Check out ready.gov/build-a-kit for more information, or you can also watch my related video on my YouTube channel, which goes through all the supplies I recommend.
Excellent. I would also add feminine needs for women. I can't imagine being in a disaster needing that. And sadly, my husband has MREs in the garage, which I will have to be close to starvation if a disaster ever happens to break those open. But we do have that.
It's good to be prepared.
Exactly. That's what this whole podcast is on. Now, what are your suggestions for computers or important papers?
Excellent topic to cover, Julie. And I always start the discussion by saying there are certain basic technological tools I recommend for businesses, which also can have an overlap into individuals. But first, make sure that your business uses a hosted Exchange server so that your company email, calendar sharing, and contacts directory will be available, accessible, and working even when your physical office is unavailable. Second, I encourage people to utilize a hosted voice over IP for your business's telephone needs. That way you can continue sending and receiving calls amidst whatever disaster might strike. It also helps in transferring calls to anywhere at any time. So if you're relocated to a different place, you can continue to operate business as usual. And you can also continue getting your voicemail messages and emails, even if you can't get to a phone line to check your voicemail or to check your calls. Third, I highly, highly encourage everyone to download your software solutions as apps from the web rather than installing them via a CD or the manufacturer actually putting them on your computer when you buy the computer. This makes it easier to keep all your tools up to date, but it also enables you to easily access those tools from anywhere. So you can more easily transfer your tools to a new laptop or a new desktop or utilize them remotely. And then last but not least, I really encourage you to save important information to a cloud storage solution. Those would be things like Backblaze, Carbonite, CrashPlan, Mozy. These are not online file repositories. The important thing to remember about online file repositories is you are moving things to them. It's not a set it and forget it solution. But if you choose one of these cloud storage solutions, you can set it and forget it and ensure that all your necessary information is available from anywhere in the midst of an emergency. Items I recommend you include for emergency preparedness are things like your insurance policy and the contact phone numbers for those people that are actually carrying out your insurance policy. Copies of your business licenses, your permits, your articles of organization, your EIN from the Social Security offices, your bank account numbers, because how many of us know those right off the top of our head? Probably not, but if you have them in a cloud solution, you can easily access them. It's also important to have the deeds to your property accessible in a cloud solution, as well as service contracts for all your tools and inventories of the items in your office space, as well as items you're selling, because those inventories might be damaged by whatever is afflicting you from an emergency standpoint, and you want to have a backup of that information that's easily accessible when you need it.
Outstanding. Now let's talk about communication during a disaster. I believe that Twitter has been a tool that, especially during that one tsunami, was a way for people to get out the word, hey, I'm alive and this is what's going on. What do you suggest?
I'm so glad that we're talking about communication from a preparedness standpoint, because so many people are focused on the supplies that they need or how to back up information or those elements that are important in the preparedness process and dealing with an emergency. But there are several key groups that need information, particularly from a business, when they're leading up to or in the midst of an emergency. As a business owner, it's so terribly important for me or other business owners to think about our team members. Employees need to know how we want them to respond, particularly when to report to what location for work and when they can expect payroll to be processed. There's a lot of people that depend on a lot of things in the domino effect of this, and knowing that information can be important. So where should employees look for necessary directives? Maybe you have a website that's your emergency preparedness website, and that's where you post these directives to your employees. But maybe you send it out via email or a text message. Maybe it's on a voicemail line where they call in to listen to the recorded greeting, and that tells them their directions. But making sure that you're very clear on what needs to be communicated to whom during the process. Keep in mind that since different team members fulfill different functions in your company, different employees are going to need different directives in order to continue their jobs in an emergency situation. So which team members need what information. You may have to have different sections of a website set up for different teams in your business, or maybe you have different phone numbers and they call in and listen to different recordings, or maybe they press 1 for sales information, sales department's directives, or press 2 for marketing department's directives, or whatever the situation might be. But being aware that your team members need to know what you expect of them is important. And second, every business partners with other businesses to function. So knowing that our partners are waiting to hear what our expectations are is key in the preparedness process also. What questions are going to arise from your vendors about how business is going to continue? If your business has caught on fire and you've had to relocate to somewhere else, how can you communicate that information to those partners? Maybe there was a catastrophe throughout your entire area, and so everybody has everything up in the air, but you have to act as if you are spreading the word to all of your partners on your own, and you can't rely on what other businesses in the area are doing, unless it's for inspiration, which we're always looking for inspiration. Next, there is no business without customers, and your clients will need clarity on certain details. How will you notify them of your operating plans and the ways that they can connect with you or contact you or get information from you in this process? If you have to temporarily relocate, will your contact information remain the same, or will you have a different phone number? How will this impact your hours of operation? Will there be a break in service or a change to how your clients pay you? These are important things, and the more that we can give this information to our customers up front, instead of them having to fill in the gaps and answer their own questions, the less they'll feel uncertainty and the more that we prevent any misunderstandings. And finally, beyond your existing customers, there are always prospects considering your company's products or services. Is a press release or a media alert necessary to make the general public aware of your plans? A winter storm is a great example of where this is important, because if a business is operating on a delay, or if schools are closed for the day, they have to let everyone know about what's going on. And a press release or a media audit makes a lot of sense, but you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. And when you're creating your preparedness plan, think about what types of emergencies might arise, and then create communication strategies for each of those. Alternatively, if you're an individual or family, you want to make sure that, number one, you've communicated properly with your family members about where to meet up and how to alert one another to being okay. You know, maybe you say, we'll text everybody. Well, but if the phone lines are down, that could be a problem. So some families just decide we're all going to meet at XYZ location. And then that way you don't have to rely on communication methods. You're all going to be there at the same time to find each other. But being aware that communication is an important detail in your preparedness planning is a huge start to getting over that hurdle.
Outstanding. Lots of good information. Yeah, our plan is we just start driving to West Virginia if there's a disaster in Raleigh. That's all we have so far, but that's right. That's why I interview you, because I have homework. It's good for me. It keeps me out of trouble. Is there an app that you'd recommend for people to use to help get them prepared?
Absolutely. I have found the Evernote suite of apps to be hugely helpful in boosting folks' emergency preparedness. Evernote is great for checklists that can help in those panic-prone situations. I find that when our brains are in overdrive, like fueled by the excitement of an emergency, that we're not thinking as clearly. So having it all documented in a tool like Evernote that's accessible from anywhere, either offline or online, it can be great for step-by-step instructions to restore your data from that cloud backup service we talked about, or a list of applications that need to be reinstalled, listed in priority order by how often you use them. Maybe a list of passwords for resetting and starting over with a new laptop if your laptop, your smartphone, your tablet are all damaged or stolen. It's hugely important in a fire or a flood or things like that. Further, Evernote is a great place to collect all those things we need to reference in an emergency, like software license information and activation codes. There's things that I'm definitely not referring to my brain for that information in an emergency situation. Plus, Evernote provides an excellent solution for keeping inventories, as well as those associated measurements or dimensions, like for your computers, your printers, your scanners, your desk itself, maybe your file drawers or cameras, whatever devices or objects are in your space. Having that inventory right in your one space for all your information is important. Plus, you can annotate images of your workspace to display those dimensions, maybe put where your outlets are on the drawing, or demonstrate the switches for your water switch or things like that, where they're located. And those details that need to be included in reference, but that we can't always have easily available without a tool like Evernote. Maybe those serial numbers for your appliances. But there are endless ways to use Evernote for your preparedness efforts, whether it's before the emergency, during the emergency, or even after the emergency.
Excellent. Now, I know you have taught classes on emergency preparedness. Were you ever in an emergency or crisis or witness one that has made you such a good authority on this and passionate about teaching it?
Julie, I am extremely blessed to have not experienced my own crisis, but I have several friends who have lived through fires, floods, hurricanes, and tornadoes. And it's really amazing what a little prep up front can do for limiting the headaches, as well as helping you recover more quickly in the long run.
I agree with you 100%. Any final thoughts on preparing for an emergency?
Yeah, actually, I have two really important things I wanted to bring up today. First was that I want for everybody to realize that planned maintenance is key. Things change and evolve. Therefore, make sure that you're reviewing your plans and your supplies every 6 months. You want to ensure that all your updates are clearly and completely conveyed to all the concerned parties, whether that be the team members in your company, your vendors, your family members, whoever needs to know. But as it evolves, you want to make sure that everybody is continually educated. You want to train each new hire immediately as that person joins your team. And beyond that, there's just regular maintenance, like conduct fire and emergency drills regularly for each possible scenario. Include in that regular reviews of how to operate your fire extinguisher. You don't want to be learning how to use that fire extinguisher in the midst of the emergency. While you must have these tools in your space, they're really worthless if you don't know how to use them. So also include regular training for everybody included on first aid, CPR, and AED through either your Red Cross or a local medical facility. And make sure you're testing your smoke alarms monthly. Changing the batteries twice a year. I like to do that when we fall back or spring forward with our clocks, because it's just a built-in reminder. But at least twice a year, change the batteries out, because they don't last forever. And actually, the units themselves for your smoke alarms should be replaced every 10 years. So if you've been in your home more than 10 years, or the home existed for more than 10 years, so those smoke alarms were there before you got there, remember to keep them in working condition by replacing them at that point. And then, when disaster does strike, document how your plan works so you can repeat or adjust as necessary in the future. Maybe you tested it out, you went through trial runs, everything seemed great, but then when the emergency hit, something didn't work like it was supposed to. And so making sure to document that. Our brains are meant for thinking, for strategic planning, creative things. They're not meant for remembering things. That's why we make these plans and we document them. The other thing I wanted to make sure people were aware of is that since you do want to notify customers, vendor partners, employees, or your family members, you want to make sure that you keep your contact information up to date. The last thing you want to be doing is scrambling for a correct phone number or an email address when you're trying to alert someone to what's happening in the midst of an emergency. That's just not a good use of your time or your energies when you're already frantic and things are kind of panic prone.
That's all wonderful advice. And I did not know about changing the fire alarms every 10 years. We're really good about changing the batteries, but thank you. That's a wonderful tip.
Thank you.
Now, one last tip, anything you want to help people and support them in eliminating clutter in any area of their life.
I just want to encourage folks to be aware of the items that they keep in their space, on their calendar, and in their mind. I live by the mantra that there's no need to hold on to whatever is no longer accurate, applicable, useful, or bringing you joy. So actively evaluate everything by that criteria. If you're like me and my clients, by following that advice, you'll find you keep less. So it's easier to find what you need when you need it. And you appreciate what you keep even more. It's a win-win.
Exactly. Win, win, win. That's what we're looking for. Now, Emily, I know you have a blog and video series on this subject. Tell people about that, books, upcoming, whatever you want people to know about you. Please share.
Absolutely. People can visit my website of organizeforsuccess.biz to read my blog posts, subscribe to my monthly e-newsletter, link over to my social media pages for regular updates, view what products I have for sale, and find out all about my upcoming events, including what classes I'll be teaching and what dates and times they'll be taught over at North Carolina State University's Technology Training Solutions Unit. And keep in mind, whether you're a business professional, manager, as your business grows and evolves, I want to play a role in helping you achieve your successes. So helping you find and implement the optimum resources for driving your desired results is just the start. Keep conversation open with me, and I'll be happy to share with you all sorts of tips and tools to make your life a little easier and more productive.
Wonderful as always. Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you, Julie. This is great. Thank you.
All right, everyone, you've got some homework to do, so get out there and get started and get prepared for an emergency. Again, we're going to hope it never happens, but release some mental clutter by becoming proactive and doing something. All right, everyone, it's time to go out, clear some clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire.
Are you looking for information on how to get organized and reduce clutter? Have you wanted to hire a professional organizer, but it's not in your budget? Do you just need some quick professional advice on clutter or organization? Our clutter-free living classes and how to organize your life office hours support you in becoming free, moving forward, and achieving success. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. Thanks for tuning in to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. Sign up for our newsletter and receive a free copy of 10 clutter-free living tips. Ready to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire? Learn about Julie's coaching, ebooks, online monthly decluttering classes, how to organize your life, office hours, and her unique clutter-free living mastermind at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. You can also watch all episodes on YouTube or download on iTunes and more. Join us next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.